Unfortunately, many people feel intimidated at the idea of creating their own financial plan if they're in their 30s or 40s, or if they're in their 50s or 60s, the idea of creating their own retirement plan. And mea culpa, as someone that was a financial advisor for over 20 years, I do think the gold standard is to work with a financial advisor. But if you know you're someone that's never gonna pay that 1% per year fee, which can add up to tens of thousands of dollars every year, if that's you, in today's video, I wanna share with you how you can master your own financial planning. And step number 1 is to find good software. Software that's gonna guide you through the process and make it easy for you. You do not want to be looking at a blank Excel spreadsheet or a blank Google Sheet and say, okay, I'm going to put this together myself. It's just way too easy to make a mistake. And frankly, why? Great financial software for retirement planning is $10, $15, $20 a month. The software I like is called Bolden. It used to be called New Retirement. You can find it at this link here. Just scan the QR code. There's also a link in the description. This video is not sponsored by Bolden, but I am an affiliate, so a small piece of what you pay will go to support the channel. Okay, so you start off with good software, and good software is going to guide you through the key areas. And then just walk through the process. Just trust the software. And we're going to, trust but verify. And we're going to get to the verify piece later, but trust the process. Just go through it. They will walk you through a step-by-step process of how to do it. And many people are surprised that solid financial planning, solid retirement planning starts first with your expenses, not how much you have in assets. And be careful with your expenses because the difference of an extra $500 a month, let's say you want to spend $7,000 a month in retirement. An extra $500, certainly an extra $1,000 a month on a repeated basis, on a month-by-month basis, it can make a material difference. So really work on getting those expenses right. And one way to do that is to test drive your expenses. Actually try living on those expenses. I know it's hard before you retire, but do what you can. And I want you to pay special attention to two areas that I often see people overlook. And the first one is taxes. Taxes are often one of the top 2, 3, or 4 expenses for a retiree, and it's not unusual for when people used to come to me and say, "Hey, Azul, I've come up with my own plan. Can you give me a second opinion?" It was not unusual for people to either not include taxes or dramatically underestimate how much their taxes were going to be. In fact, it likely makes sense, even if you do your own financial plan, to work with an accountant or a financial advisor to help you strategize the tax situation, specifically which accounts you take money out of, which yours, to minimize the taxes that you pay over time. Another area that I want you to be careful on is your healthcare cost. According to Fidelity, the big investment company, the average American at 65 needs to plan on, over the rest of their life in total, spending $155,000 on healthcare costs that are not covered by Medicare, and that does not include long-term care insurance. So Medicare has premiums associated with it. It often has copays associated with it. And so we wanna be careful because just because we have Medicare does not mean our healthcare costs are gonna go to 0. Also want you to be careful with your choice of Medicare. When the time comes to make your Medicare decision, making a good decision matters, and once you're on Medicare, continuing to make the right choice each year because parts of Medicare change. Part D, which covers our drug coverage, that can change every year. We might be put on new medications. There might be different coverage. There might be different advantage plans, which is Part C. If you don't go with traditional Medicare, and different facilities might be in network versus out network. So it makes sense before you sign up for Medicare initially and then each year. And so use a professional. Many of the advisors are at no cost to the consumer. The company that I like is called Chapter. You can find Chapter at this link here. I am proud to sponsor, to partner with this video with Chapter, and they do a good job of helping the consumer navigate the complexity that unfortunately is Medicare, and it is no cost to you, the consumer. Okay, let's keep going. I talked about paying special attention for taxes and healthcare costs. The next thing I want you to pay special attention to is your asset allocation. What percent of your portfolio is allocated to stocks and what percent's in bonds? And, you know, you may want to work with a professional to figure this out as well. Just because you don't know what you don't know. Having done this for 20 years, I can tell you one of the big surprises for retirees is just how incrementally more painful losses are in the stock market. You may have been able to navigate other downturns in the market while you were working. But once you retire, boy, a 20, 30, 40, or 50, hopefully it doesn't happen, but it could, a 50% correction in the stock market. The pain of that can doesn't just increase by 10 or 15% when once you're retired. It can be 10x more painful. It can go from worrying to angst where you can't sleep at night, and your mental pain can cause you to be a forced seller in a down market, and that's really how people get hurt. So, I do think it makes sense to work with a financial advisor to help you get your asset allocation right. That's gonna determine 80%, 90% of your investment success over time, and hopefully it'll also minimize the likelihood that you blow out of stocks, that you sell your stocks when things are at its worst, when they're the lowest, and you lock in those losses maybe just before things start to improve. Um, so that's one area to look at. And the next thing is, um, giving yourself time. So giving yourself time, so come up with your plan, look through those areas that we talked about, and then let it simmer. It's like a good stew. Walk away from it for a while and then come back, because oftentimes what people do is they're very intensely focused on this, for and then they walk away and they don't look at it for a year. And I do want you to enjoy your retirement. I don't want you to be over focused on it, but just like writing a good paper, um, writing a good email, sometimes it makes sense to walk away and come back with a fresh set of eyes. And speaking of a fresh set of eyes, one of the things that can make sense is to ask somebody for a second opinion, either somebody that's been retired 5 years longer than you or 10 years longer than you, or a financial advisor. So most good financial advisors are going to charge at least 1% a year, 1% of the assets that you have. So if you have $1 million, that's $10,000 a year. But there are financial advisors that will work on a project basis. So I talked about the asset allocation. I talked about getting a second opinion. Try to find a financial advisor if you're not going to work with one on an ongoing basis that will at least work with you on an hourly or a project basis to help you with that. Again, the gold standard is to work with a fiduciary financial advisor. And I do think the software I like is Bolden. Again, the link is here. And then the Medicare advisors that I like is Chapter. You can find their link here. And if you enjoyed this video, the YouTube algorithm says this is the next video of mine, specifically for you, that YouTube thinks you'll enjoy next. Thanks for watching this one. Bye-bye.